Hello. In this video, we will show you step by step how to set up Discovery Flights in your Aviatize platform. Discovery Flights are a very powerful tool for flight schools and flying clubs to attract new students or members. During this Discovery Flight, the new potential customer of the flight school and flying club will be introduced to not only the organization, but of course also the world of flying. So in this video, we'll teach you step by step how to set up Aviatize so that you can run your Discovery flights very easy and flawless. There are three important steps that we need to do to set up the Discovery flight in Aviatize. First of all, we're going to create the type of customer. Second of all, we're going to create the type of flight, which is Discovery flight. And third of all, we're going to give this type of flight a fixed price. First of all, we're going to create the type of customer. This is important because when somebody is interested to become a member or a student in your organization, you're not immediately going to give them access to your Aviatize account, or they're not going to get the mobile application or something like that. But you want them to be known as a customer in your organization. So how do we do that? Let's dive into the platform. So we are here in the platform, and as first step, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new type of role in the people section. So we're going to go into people configuration, and we are going to create a new role. So we're going to go to people configuration, then roles. Then we're going to do top right here, add a new role, and we're going to call this a Discovery customer. We can give it a color if we want. And we can say that this role does not get access to Aviatize immediately, but will be known as a customer in billing. For this type of customer, we don't need any required documents, although you might have to get a TSA approval or something like that, and then you can select that here. I will not do that in this demo. So when we create the Discovery customer, it also will immediately be added to the access control. So when we click on access control, we can see that the Discovery customer has been added far right on the screen. And we can see that there is no access to Aviatize at all. Okay. So next thing we need to do is we're going to add the person that has maybe called or emailed to book a Discovery flight. So we're going to use the email address discovery3@aviatize.me. First name Mark, last name Trial. Then you can add a phone number. That's not a bad idea to do because you will see that when you will book a flight for this student or for this potential student in the future, the phone number will show up in the booking. So it might be a good idea that you add the phone number here. And now important is that we select the role that we just created on the bottom, which is a Discovery customer. Should an invite email be sent? In this case, no, because of course we don't want to confuse the customer by giving them an invite to Aviatize, so we turn that off. Mark Trial has been invited. That's perfect. Okay, so now what we have to do is we're gonna go to the billing section, and we're going to link the new user to the customer. And why we do that, for example, normally in 95% of the cases, every user is also a potential customer, but you might have users for which the bills or the invoices need to be sent to a different customer. Okay, so that's why the necessary step that we need to take is go to billing, and then we're going to click on the second person here, which is create a customer for all users that don't have a customer yet. So when we do that, we link up the user that we just created to its own customer. Okay, that is trial, last name trial, first name Mark, and now we will create that customer. Okay, so perfect. Now that we have created the person, we're also going to create, the second step is to create the flight type. So we're going to go to planning, configuration, and we automatically get the calendar types. And we have all of the different calendar types or events that we can plan. And we're going to create a new calendar type called Discovery Flight. Discovery Flight. What type of event is this? It is a flight. We can select what kind of resource type we're going to need, and that can be single engine, multi-engine. If we leave this open, it can be done on anything, but for argument's sake, we're going to take only the single engine airplanes that can be used. You can control who can view these flights, who can manage these flights. Important is that we select who will pay for the flight, and who will pay is, of course, the second pilot, because a discovery flight means that the person will not be PIC yet, so we're going to say that the flight has to be paid by the P2. Okay, there we go. Now we have created a discovery flight. I forgot to give a color. You can always do that by going back to edit and then select a color that you like for this. Very nice orange. There we go, and save. Okay, so this is now the second step that is done. Third step that we're going to have to do is to create the price for this flight. And we do that in the billing section, and we go again to configuration. And in the rate section, we're going to create a rate by going top right, add rate, and we're going to create a discovery flight price. And of course, often this is a fixed price. If it's not a fixed price, you can just keep it as any other price that you have set in Aviatize, but in this case, we're going to set it as a fixed rate. So imagine that all discovery flights for this organization cost $200. We have to select the product type. It's a flight. And the rate time, which is mandatory. Normally the default setting, because that's how the system was set up before, is that we're going to charge as per hops time. In this case, we're going to select all the way on the bottom. We're going to say fixed rate. So no matter how the flight is going to, how many minutes the flight is going to be, it's always going to cost $200. Now, the very important step that you have to do is, and of course, you can select for which aircraft this is available and so on. What we're going to have to do is to make sure that this fixed price is only applicable to the calendar type, this discovery flight, which is the last one that we created. There we go. So for every discovery flight, this is now going to cost $200. If you have fixed rates for discovery flights on different aircraft, then you can, of course, select for which aircraft there is a different price. Okay, and then we're going to save this rate. Now, very important, because we have created a rate that has some kind of restriction For example, in the rate above that, we can say that it's $2.50 per minute on hops time on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for training flights if you're a platinum member. This is very specific, okay? So if we want the system to detect automatically what is the rate that we're gonna do, we're gonna have to pull it up. So we're gonna drag the discovery flight and we're gonna drag it all the way to the top. There we go. So now the system will look top down to see is there anything special, and it will indeed detect. As soon as we see that there is a discovery flight, it will apply the $200 to the system. Okay, now that we have set up the person, the type of flight, and the billing, we can book a flight. So here we are now on the planning, and we're gonna make a discovery flight for Mark trial. So we're gonna select an airplane that we're gonna use for that. You can see that the schedule is totally open, and we're gonna make a 1.5 hour block on Wednesday from 6 till 7:30, and we are gonna select above that the calendar type. We can have the choice between rental, training flight, a maintenance, flight department flight, or there's quite a few other options. And all the way on the bottom we can see discovery flight. We're going to book the discovery flight on this plane. I will be the PIC, and we're going to select Mark Trial as our customer. Then there is a validation that asks if the PIC has more than 3 landings in the last 90 days, which 8 out of 3, that's fine. So we can book that one. And we can see now the flight has been scheduled, and you can see the color is the one from that we chose for the discovery flight. I trust that you understand already by now how to check in and check out the flight. So we're gonna make that a little bit shorter. We're gonna go straight into checking in for the flight. You can see that there is still enough maintenance potential. Hops times and tag times, they are correct, and we check in. The color changes slightly. I chose orange, and now it changed to the yellow that we have chosen as an indicator that the flight is in progress. In that case, we can go to the checkout of the flight. We check out by clicking the button, and then as you know, you can select how you want to see the checkout form. In this case, we require the hops counter. So let's say that we did 1 hour and a half, indeed, and tag time slightly less, 1:30.1 and 1.4. So now we see that the 2 fields that we required have been filled out, and we can check out. When we check out, automatically the system will now identify that because it's a discovery flight price and the quantity is 1, automatically $200 has been charged, and the total due is $200. So the 200, no matter how long the flight was, you saw that the flight was 1 hour and a half. We can see here that the total due is $200. When we confirm, the invoice will be created to Mark Trial with the email address for $200, and you will be able to present the invoice to the customer at the end of the flight. So in case, for example, that the customer pays cash, a remark received cash from Mark. There we go, save. Payment is confirmed, and we can see that the invoice has been paid. And then the last step is, okay, your checkout has been completed. You can then still add some files or squawks, or you're ready. Now, What is important is that Mark at this point did a successful discovery flight. He received his invoice. He was paid the right amount of money that he needs to pay. But he's still not a full member of the flight school or flying club, because he doesn't need to use the app. He doesn't need to get the platform. In case now that the customer has decided he's convinced that he wants to be part of your flight school or flying club, what you do then is you go to people, you search for Mark. Oops. You search for Mark. There we go. You can see that he's a discovery customer at the moment. You haven't filled out all the rest of the details, and in case that he wants to become now a full member, you as a manager, you go to the page of Mark, to the admin, and you change the role. So for example, if he decided to become a student, you make him a student, you remove discovery customer, and now the user role has changed. What does that change? Don't forget to save, by the way. What does that change? Well, that is that in Mark's case, he will now get access immediately to Aviatize. And what does he get access to? He will get all of the items that are in the student column. So we actually changed him from the discovery role to the student role. And by doing so, all of a sudden he will get access to the system in a different way. Now there is an important step that we still have to do if you have the case where somebody became a student after a discovery flight, and that is you go, because remember that we didn't send him the login credentials for Aviatize when we created his account. So we go to the new student, and there's a few things that you can do now. When you click on the student, first of all, you can add him to a class. So if we click here, and we can say that now Mark is part of the PPL class of 2024. He's in onboarding, so he still has to start. You can give him a start date and so on. You will then require a medical, of course. And that allows you then to add his medical. Before that, you cannot continue, and that would be a required documents check. But the second important thing that we have to do is, of course, provide him with the login credentials. So we're going to go to admin, and there you will find in the blue box either a correct email or resend the invitation. And at this point, when we click that button, Mark will receive his login credentials and will get access to Aviatize. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive video on how to set up discovery flights in Aviatize, and we hope that in this way you can have a more efficient workflow on attracting more students and attracting more members to your flight organization.